Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be covering the whole Monique, Steve Harvey, Lee Daniels situation. So as you may or may not have known, Steve Harvey and Lee Daniels have had both of their shows canceled, you know, 2 for 2 if you will. Steve Harvey had his Steve Harvey talk show canceled, and they are going to replace it with the Kelly Clarkson show, and he also has been replaced as a host on the show Little Big Shots. And Lee Daniels is having both his shows Star and Empire canceled. So Star has been canceled after 3 seasons, and Empire will be canceled after its 6th season. And I just want to actually point a lot of things out right now. There are so many things that I'm thinking about this. There are so many things that I feel about this situation. There are so many things that, you know, I find wrong with the situation, and certain things I find, I guess, right with the situation. Now, people are actually, you know, going back and forth and, you know, calling this karma for Steve Harvey and Lee Daniels for how they wouldn't help or how they blackballed Monique. And in some way, shape, or form, I kind of see it as such, because not too long ago, before this situation, Steve Harvey was talking about how, you know, this is the money game, and, you know, you always go for the money, and, you know, people were calling him things like a house Negro and things like that. People were calling him, you know, saying he was shucking and jiving, he was, you know, selling out and cooning, and I understand where people are coming from with that, and, you know, I get it. We shouldn't be so high up there, or so high up there in our heads, in our minds, that we feel like we should sell out completely of our entire beliefs and entire integrities. As Monique said, there is also an integrity game, and I agree with her on that. I actually saw on Steve Harvey's show that, you know, I didn't see the full interview, but I saw basically the conversation that really struck a nerve with a lot of people, you know, online. And I noticed, I said, yes, both make great points. Both make certain points. Yes, there is an integrity game and there is a money game. And Steve Harvey made a point. You know, you can't, especially looking like us, we can't go in there, you know, all half-cocked and ready to, you know, go at it with people and, you know, ready to just, you know, how do I say whatever we want, do whatever we want. You know what I mean? On the show, when his interview was being done with Monique, yes, I saw his point when he said there are other ways of going at getting what we want. And he's right. You know, we should be more tactful. We should be more strategic. Do I think in certain cases that money does change you and money does have an effect on how you think? Because what you thought at one point in your life, you have some people who thought they would never sell out of their integrity, and then they got so high up. Sometimes they get big-headed. Sometimes, you know, they get a little gassed up. Their heads get gassed up. They feel like they're so far from, you know, where they were that they kind of don't remember where they came from. And I do think in some cases that can have a little bit of effect on Steve Harvey and other people who've made it big as well. However, that does not mean he was wrong. Monique wasn't wrong in terms of the integrity game. Yes, we should not get so high up there or want money or need money so bad that we sell out completely of our beliefs, our integrity, you know, our dignity. You know, we should not sell out completely. However, we should also know that in some way, shape, or form, there are certain things we're going to have to compromise, especially if you want to be successful. And that's just life in general. And I do understand why some people may think that this is harder for us as a people, you know, because, you know, a lot of times it seems like it always comes at our expense. You know, when it's being compromising, you know, just doing good business, and when it's being compromising, selling out our beliefs at the expense of our entire community. So I see both sides. And if you really think about how rich people think, what Steve Harvey said about there are other ways at being tactful and getting what we want, it is true. If you ever heard about the whole bubble gum and ice cream thing, you know, I've heard this before, like, a poor person and a rich person have 2 different philosophies or 2 different ways of getting something. So you have bubblegum and ice cream and you only have $5. So you only have $5 and you want bubblegum and you want ice cream, but since you only have $5, you, as a poor person, or a person with a poor person's mentality, a person with a poverty conscious mentality would think that they can only get one or the other. But a rich person, a person with a rich person's mentality, or a non-poverty conscious mentality, will see how they can get both the gum and the ice cream. So a poor person will just say, okay, I can only get one thing because I only have $5. But what a rich person will do is they will buy a case of water with that $5, or, you know, this is just an example. They will buy a case of water with that $5, and they will sell each and every one of those waters for, let's say, $1. And so they have enough money to get the bubble gum and the ice cream and still have money left over. So in certain ways, yes, we should be more strategic. I think in this whole situation, we are very emotional, and we're not wrong in some of the points that we are making. I'm not saying any of us are wrong. However, there are ways that we overlook thinking critically, and overlook being tactful, and overlook, you know, how do I say, being strategic and getting what we want, especially in business and especially in success, because we always think it's, you know, about shucking and jiving, selling out, you know, quote unquote cooning, you know, it's selling out our beliefs and integrities. I personally think that, I especially think we need to read more. Okay, read more books about strategic thinking in business and compromising, and how not to sell out and how to get what you want. Because there's this saying, you know, never leave money on the table, which is what Monique was trying not to do with that Netflix deal. And of course they called her difficult and stuff like that, and I'm going to get to that in a minute. But it seems like, you know, both sides made points and both sides were very flawed in their opinions. Now, Steve Harvey has lost his shows after, you know, saying all of that. Now, Chronicle Speaks actually did a video on this, and she said, she made some pretty good points. She said that there actually is more to it than just what we're seeing on the headlines, because a lot of us were going in saying, haha, this is Monique laughing her way, I don't know, to the bank, but she was laughing. She must be enjoying this. Karma's a bitch. Karma is this, you know, that's your karma for not helping her when she called you out. Now you're losing everything. So I totally agreed. Well, I totally agreed with certain points that, you know, she made and points that he made, okay? However, I do think that sometimes when you're trying to get your worth, because yes, Monique with that Netflix deal, in her mind, she believed that she was just asking for her worth. And we have been talking about this, about how women, specifically Black women, are, you know, getting paid less in a lot of same fields that other people are in. So, you know, the whole wealth gap and the whole, you know, the whole pay gap thing, you know, we earn less for every dollar like the white man earns, or for every dollar a man earns, we earn like a few cents less for the same job doing the same thing. And why are we earning a few cents less? Why is our salaries lower? And this has been pointing out in a bunch of different shows like Insecure. Molly was wondering, why is a white man getting paid more than she is? And they're doing the same job. So aside from that, I feel like Monique was trying to ask for her worth. Like, hell, she won an Oscar, for crying out loud. So I agree. Like, you know, an Oscar is a really prestigious award. You're supposed to get, you know, more roles, better roles, more money for winning awards like that. So when she asks for more money from Netflix, I do see that her point in this. You know what I'm saying? She's an Oscar winner. But however, think of the fine lines and the fine details within that. She was going on for a comedy segment, for a comedy stand-up segment. And, you know, she has not been doing comedy for a while. She hasn't been doing, you know, stand-up for a while or selling out arenas. So when they said, okay, we're only going to offer you $500,000 to do the thing, and she said, no, I want more, I agree she's only asking for her worth, because as an Oscar winner and as a person who's been in the game longer, she deserves it. But I do say this, you haven't been popping in a long time, stand-up wise, and that could be on account of you being blackballed, but you haven't been selling out arenas. You haven't been doing this, you haven't been doing that for a while. You haven't really sold out arenas like Dave Chappelle and Chris Rock have. And, you know, they're saying, why are you paying Amy Schumer more? And I kind of agree with that, because Amy Schumer was kind of very new to the game. I only known her for being on the roasts, and, you know, people find her funny, but apparently other people don't find her funny. I personally think, you know, she isn't the funniest person ever, but I guess she's young, crazy, and she uses a lot of gross out humor, so that relates to certain people. So I guess that's why people can get a good chuckle out of her, but she's not all that funny to me. You know what I'm saying? She gets a good chuckle or two out of me, but I feel like she's more of a gross out humor, random humor type of, you know, comedian. That's just what it is. And they were paying her once, but the difference is, unfortunately, whether she has no talent or not, whether you believe she has no talent or not, or she's funny or not, she is selling out arenas. So she is, you know, she was at the time making money, making stuff. She was actually making moves out here, and she was a fresh face, so of course they put her on. And in a way, that's kind of, I believe, what Steve Harvey meant about the money game, because in business, they looked at it as a business standpoint. Yes, Netflix have given money to things that don't go over well, like Amy's stand-up thing flopped, okay? I heard it flopped. It was a disaster. It got canceled or something, but it was a flop. And Netflix does put money towards things that aren't successful, but a lot of people do. But anyway, I do agree they thought it was a good investment in Amy Schumer because she was doing so well at the time. And as from a business standpoint, you know, people make decisions on what's going good now and what has the potential to go good in the future. No one has really heard about Monique for a while. Yes, she's a legend in the game, but no one has really heard about Monique in a while. And let's be honest, I just want to point this out really quick. Let's say, for instance, she did do the Netflix deal and she did get money for her stuff, and she did, you know, get her worth from money for her stuff, and they did back her up with all the money she asked for. How many of us would actually be watching her stand up on Netflix? Please. I'm not saying she wouldn't have any supporters, but how would those numbers be compared to the Dave Chappelle's and Chris Rock's of the world? Are you guys who are complaining about this whole gender, racial bias thing Netflix is doing towards Monique, are you guys the same people supporting her? You have to ask that question, because I find it funny we wanted to get so up in arms, because I'm really looking at this right now. I find it funny that we wanted to get so up in arms about how Netflix is so bad. And I guarantee 9 times out of 10, the people who are shaming Netflix and, you know, cursing out Netflix, 9 times out of 10 don't even have Netflix. I don't have Netflix, so of course I sort of jumped on the bandwagon when she said that, because I'm looking at this like, I'm not surprised. We're always seeing this stuff every single day, so I definitely emotionally jumped on the bandwagon. I am not going to lie here. However, when I saw Lovely T's video, she really broke some things down. She really made me think a little bit, and I feel like I was able to put my emotions to the side and think critically and business-wise, because as an entrepreneur, you have to think business-wise, okay? So I definitely see it. They looked at it as, will they get a return on their investment? How many of you guys are supporting Monique the same way Dave Chappelle, Amy Schumer, and all these other comedians that are still popular you know, how are you supporting Monique? Are you supporting her in the same way that the Dave Chappelles and the Chris Rocks, who are still selling out arenas, are you doing that? So we can get all up in arms about how, oh, these corporations, oh, they don't give us our just due, oh, they don't give us our credit. And yes, it is true. Okay, what Monique said wasn't anything less from the truth. What she said was absolutely correct. Yes, we do get paid less. We do get the short end of the stick. We do not get what we are owed. And the old saying goes, we have to work twice as hard or more times as hard to get half as much. So we always have to fight and demand our worth. And when you demand your worth, you are considered difficult. You are considered, you know, harsh. You are considered aggressive. And I do not think Monique was intentionally trying to be aggressive, but I do think she doesn't fully know how to negotiate. She has a lot of integrity from what I've seen, but I don't think she really knows how to negotiate business-wise. And I think maybe she uses the fact that she may not know how to negotiate. And I heard her husband is a terrible manager. Okay, that's what I'm hearing. Her husband is a terrible manager, and this is kind of why you never sort of work with your spouse, or you never have your spouse make all the decisions for you. I wouldn't say 9 times out of 10, but it's really a 50-50 thing that, you know, working with your spouse or your significant other can be like a teamwork. And yes, they do seem like they work like a team, but, you know, maybe he's just not a good manager for her. Maybe he does have her best interest at heart, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's a good manager. But I do think she doesn't necessarily know how to negotiate. And probably because of that, she kind of uses that as a way to say, oh no, it's their fault. I do not think she's difficult to work with. I do think she may have good intentions, but I also don't think she doesn't know how to necessarily work in business. Do I think Hollywood will have you selling out of your integrity for the sake of roles and, you know, jobs and stuff? Yes. And I don't think we should do that. But I do think that, you know, some things we sometimes we can put our pride to the side and think clearly, okay? Keyword sometimes. We can definitely put our pride to the side and think critically here. Because I think, especially as Black folks, we tend to really get emotional, okay? And I see that across social media every time something happens. We get very emotional and we don't ask questions too much. We don't think. We don't dig deep enough. Some of us do, but you know, a lot of us don't. So it wasn't until I saw Lovely T's video about it that it really made me think. And I have to point this out, actually two things out. Although Lovely T made some good points in that video, calling Monique a mushmouth, saying she only uses this as a way to, you know, get sympathy, but she likes to throw other Black people under the bus, yet kind of caping for these white folks, I have to kind of call Lovely T out a little bit, because I think the main reason, I think a main motivator for the reason she is calling out Monique is because she does not want to feel guilt-tripped about canceling her Netflix. Now, I am not a Netflix subscriber. I watch Netflix shows through other people who I watch Netflix with, who do have Netflix accounts. But I also do think that it may be easier for me to say, I don't support this, I cancel this. As I've said before in past videos, it's easier to cancel something or boycott something you were never really supporting in the first place. So a lot of people who won't cancel their Netflix, like a lot of people who won't give up their Gucci's and their H&M's and who won't give up their, you know, the Dove soaps, it are people who still use them, love using them, you know, already have them, and don't want to get emotionally invested into throwing them away because, you know, they love their precious things so much. You know what I'm saying? And I personally feel like that was somewhat the case with Lovely T. The reason she's not unsubscribing or canceling her Netflix, she said, oh, I'm not canceling my Netflix because of one person. And she gave an example talking about, oh, this Google worker, or this person who works at Google, who is not making enough money they feel like they deserve, is calling for a boycott of Google. Don't use Google because they're not paying me one. They said, you guys would never cut off your Google or never stop using Google because this one worker says they're not paying me enough. And chances are it's going to be hard to cancel some of those stuff, especially big things, big brands and big stuff. They're going to be hard to cancel. You as an individual can cancel it, but how many other individuals who are still supporting it or will eventually go back to supporting it? You know what I'm saying? So it's going to be hard to cancel those things. However, like I said, I think Lovely T, although she made good points, I think a motivator for her saying she's not canceling her Netflix is because she just loves her Netflix. And like a lot of people who love their Dove and their Gucci's and their H&M's, she's not going to cancel it because she doesn't want to be guilt-tripped. And she's pointing out all these things wrong with Monique because she doesn't want to be guilt-tripped into, you know, canceling her Netflix. She wants to be, you know, comfortable. It's like a lot of people who make the excuse about why they don't want to cancel one of their faves. You know what I'm saying? So I personally feel like there is somewhat of a bias here. But then again, I'm on the outside looking in, like a lot of people are. But Lovely T definitely made points when she said that Netflix has definitely given content creators, small content creators, and Black content creators, and paid them well, a platform. She's right. We wouldn't have the documentary 13th. You know, Ava DuVernay is coming out with a movie about the Central Park 9. You know what I'm saying? We have Dear White People. We have She's Gotta Have It. We had The Get Down. Yeah, that got canceled after, you know, one season, but I didn't see it, but I heard it was good. We got Luke Cage. Yeah, that got canceled after 2 seasons, but the whole point is we had it. You know what I'm saying? A lot of shows that we watch nowadays, they're on paid TV, you know, they're on Netflix, they're on Showtime, they're on, you know, HBO, and they're on Stars and stuff. You know, a lot of shows, the good shows that we watch that are written and produced and, you know, executively produced and put out there by, you know, young indie Black and female content creators, all these people we say need an opportunity and a platform. Netflix and platforms like Netflix are giving them that. They're giving them that platform. So I do agree. Let's just be honest. A lot of shows that we like are on Netflix. and they're getting paid well on Netflix. Like, Netflix is taking over the game, okay, whether you like it or not. And I have to also point this out. Monique failed to tell us before that she was originally offered $3 million. Okay, this is what I found out. She was originally offered $3 million for to do the stand-up on Netflix, but they told her, okay, you have to come and audition. And yes, in a way, I understand why they asked why she could come in and audition. Although she has an Oscar under her belt, yes, in some cases, I understand why they asked her she should audition, because we haven't heard about you in a long time, based on stand-up, okay? And she said, no, I don't want to audition. They said, all right, what we're going to do is we're going to give you $500,000, and if you do well, we'll see if we can pay you more. She failed to tell us that, then we had to find that out. And I understand this whole not wanting to sell out for less or settle for less. I feel maybe she took it that way in her mind because, again, we always get the short end of the stick. As young black women or as young people of color, we do get the short end of the stick. We're told to settle for anything and be glad. You know, she probably felt like she was being thrown a bone and she's like, hey, I want an Oscar. So I understand where she's coming from, but she failed to tell us that she was actually offered more. Okay? And that's why it's important to do our research. Okay? That is why it's important to actually dig into the story. I think we got very emotionally invested into this, and we didn't do our due diligence, our research. You know, we kind of, you know, ran with it because we heard, hey, this non-black owned or this white owned company is being gender and racially biased. And then we ran with it. And again, I am guilty of that. We ran with it. But sometimes we should take the time to think critically and read between the lines a little bit. No, Netflix is not innocent. No, the powers that be are not innocent. I am not saying that whatsoever. But I do believe that, yes, there is a time and a place, and I do think that's what Steve Harvey meant. We're black out here. We can't just go in there any way we want. Now, what he said about I have a family to feed and I'm not gonna sacrifice my integrity for the sake, or I'm not going to sacrifice money for the sake of my integrity. He kind of sounded very off to me because it did come off as a little bit of, you know, selling outish. It really came off as, you know, be more elaborate of what you mean by that, because I think I know what you're trying to say, and it's not anything with bad intentions, but I feel like you should really elaborate a little bit on what you mean by that, because I get it, right? We do have a family to feed. And let's just be honest, some of you guys are selling out too, but on a small scale. You talk about, oh, I have a family to feed, so some of you are out here selling dope and selling drugs and you know, selling out in that way, and, you know, putting your life at risk and putting your family at risk in that way for some money to feed your family. And I'm not saying what Steve Harvey is saying is any better, but he's just doing it on a bigger scale with a lot of money. So in that sense, when he says, I'm not going to leave money on the table, or I'm not going to not gain money because for the sake of my integrity, I found that a little bit problematic. I don't think we should be selling out any of our beliefs. We shouldn't be selling out, you know, our entire community, you know, our image. We shouldn't be selling out our integrity and dignity for the sake of some money. And, you know, this does kind of look like a karma situation where the fact that both Lee Daniels and Steve Harvey, who didn't have Monique's back, are now losing their shows on networks, specifically Lee Daniels on Fox. They're losing their shows on those networks because straight after what just happened, after what has been exposed just months earlier. So I do see it as somewhat of a karma situation, but Monique came back very, very classy because she said, hey, let's not laugh and joke and, you know, put each other down because, you know, this looks like a funny situation. Maybe she was laughing on the inside, but you know what? At least she's not malintended. At least she's not gonna laugh in their face. At least she's being cordial about it. I can respect that. At least she's keeping the same energy, okay? Because, you know, it seems like she would do it for other folks, but it sounds like she wouldn't do it for Steve Harvey or Lee Daniels. So at least she's being cordial about this and she's keeping the same energy, okay? At least she's doing that. I do think she's right. Let's not kick people while they're down, because that probably won't even make it better for us. you know, let's say for instance someone like a Chrisette Michele, going back to when she performed at the inauguration, and you know, she talked about, oh, I had suicidal thoughts ever since that, because she doubled down on the reason why she did it. Then she had a miscarriage, so she claimed, her label dropped her, and you know, she had suicidal thoughts. She was just going through a really hard time, okay? And she went on the Breakfast Club, you know, she was all sad, she was all like this, she was all pouty. She just looked like she was just so defeated, especially with all the backlash and everybody calling her, you know, sell out and shucking and jiving, and you know, this is this probably did a lot of damage to her. Now, suicidal thoughts, I do not play with that, because I was at a point where I contemplated it. Believe it or not, I was at a point. I was very upset. I was very depressed. I felt like I was beaten and broken down. I felt like everybody was gaining up on me for whatever reason, no matter what I tried to do, thinking I was making things right. And, you know, people would just still find something to say that I was wrong for, and I just didn't know what to do, and you just wanted to end it all. Yeah, like, trust me, I had those thoughts, so I don't play with that. But people were still accusing her, saying you did it for the check, and in some cases, in some way, shape, or form, I do believe that was the case. But people are out here saying she did it for the check, and that she's just, you know, selling out. She shucked and jived, you know, because her fan base definitely told her no, and she still went ahead and did it and doubled down on the reasons why. And, you know, in my opinion, I felt like she thought she was going to gain something from this, and, you know, it blew up in her face. And I said, okay, being on the Breakfast Club, and someone pointed this out, asking if we forgive Chrisette Michele, and she said it's hard to forgive her, because it seems like, hey, you were all with your little wigs and with your little straight hair, and, you know, shucking and jiving for Trump, and, you know, for the inauguration, which barely anybody was there, claiming you were just trying to build a bridge and you were just trying to get everyone together. And I understand people have put themselves in the line of fire to actually do something right, because that's what the historical figures have done. Let's just be real. You know what I'm saying? People have shook hands with people who are on opposing teams and just listened to people who are on opposing teams, even if they didn't agree. You know what I'm saying? They could be cordial, and I think that's what she was trying to do, or so she claims. But now, well, not now, but after, and she came on the Breakfast Club, she had her afro out, she was wearing all black. Even on the Roland Martin show, she had her afro out, all black. She just looked so defeated, and she had this little low whispery voice, like she was really trying to get her black fan base back. So I understand why people don't believe that she's truly sorry, or that this was all about building a bridge. It looked like she was really doing it for the check. And in a way, I believe she'll bounce back, but I also do believe the bias that goes with it. You know, how you beat her down so much. Yes, she deserves to be chastised for it. Yes, she deserved the backlash she got for it, because she didn't listen to her fan base and thought as an individual. So it's hard for me to believe this whole building a bridge thing and how it was really all for the check. But I also have to look at the people who are shitting on her. Excuse my French. I have to look at the people who were backlashing her and bashing her for it, because were you guys even supporting her? I had to say, maybe if more black folks who are complaining, or more people who are complaining, maybe you guys supported her to a level that, especially you support a Cardi B and all the other people who, you know, you like so much. Maybe you supported her, she probably wouldn't have had to do it for the check, so you claim. So sometimes this does come back on us. You get mad at black people and black women specifically for doing things that you don't like, you know, doing things that you think is a damage to our image, but it's not like you really supported them on a grand scale, or at least to a point where they don't have to do it for the check. You know what I'm saying? And I think the things we support in our community, we support a lot of BS in our community, as long as it looks good to us. I noticed that. And this is one of the reasons I don't listen to modern day rap music, because it's like, the message in it for the most part is not helping us. It's producing stereotypes. We're being erased slowly but surely in the hip-hop industry. And it's like, when we say we want this representation, we want that representation, when people like, you know, that look like me specifically mess up or do something we don't like, we're quick to cancel them. We're easier to cancel them. But when, you know, like the Lil Pumps and the Cardi B's of the world, they get 110 million free passes until the straw breaks the camel's back. And then you wonder why some of us have to quote unquote shuck and jive, because really, how many of you guys are really supporting us? I have a business right now. I've mentioned this before. I have a business right now, and I'm out here doing my thing, you know, grinding out here every day. I'm willing to do custom orders for people and things like that. And I don't think I get the engagement that I once got, or I don't think I get any engagement at all. Well, that's a lie. I'm not saying no one specifically or at all supports me, but it's just like with the way I see other people getting support, it's like the minute I make it big, and what if I just decide I'm not going to deal with this community anymore because once I made it big, I'm out. And this is probably why. So are you giving that same support that you claim you've always given when they mess up? I have to ask that question. But anyway, yeah, aside from that, so Monique made some good points. And I have to point this thing out. One thing that made me give Monique the side eye, one very big thing that made me give Monique the side eye when Lovely T pointed this out, and I'm very glad she did. She pointed out, she went to this video where Monique was calling Roseanne Barr her sister in comedy. So remember when Roseanne Barr went on that tirade, claiming she was on Ambien and that she made a bad tweet about Valerie Jarrett being, relevant to the Planet of the Apes and ISIS and stuff like that? Remember that? Monique stood up there and defended Roseanne Barr, saying Roseanne Barr is her sister in comedy. We're not going to throw her away. So Monique is not necessarily innocent here. So even though you want to say, oh my God, Steve Harvey's a house this and a house that, and Monique was just all like this, she's not necessarily innocent because she's always calling like Amy her sister, and she's saying Roseanne Barr is her sister in comedy. And Lovely T pointed this out too, which was a great point. Where was Roseanne Barr when you were in this, rut and you needed help? This is what I mean by, this is one of the reasons why I slowly backed out of this whole excessive pro-black woke folk stuff, because it's like a lot of it felt more emotion-based than it did strategy-based, than it did critical thinking. I get it. Trust me. I think there's some benefits into being emotional, because when we're emotional and we make a lot of noise, sometimes people will listen. So I think there's somewhat of a benefit, but I think for the most part, it's now starting to look less beneficial, and it's just looking like a bunch of us making noise. Eventually people are going to catch on and say, these people are making a bunch of noise. You know what I'm saying? This is one of the reasons I don't take black boycotts seriously, modern day black boycotts seriously, because there is no code. There is like, let's shop at this place for a while and let's cancel this for a few months and then we're going to go back. So this is why I feel like it can't be, I can't take it seriously. And now you know why you have people who do sell out, because they're not getting that support. And who knows, maybe at one point they were like this, they were here for the community, but they felt shunned out. They felt like they weren't getting the support. They wanted to get to a point where they were, and they felt like, there was just no code, no strategy. So they're just like, you know what, I'm done. And I'm here to get mine and mine's only. And I'm here to feed myself and my family and anyone I like. And that's it. That's why some people eventually turn and just work for themselves as individuals. And I see why. I don't think we should be selfish, and we should do things that come at the expense of our community as a whole. But let's just be honest. Like, some of the times the community isn't acting the way they should. So that's something to think about as well. So my final point is, I actually wanted to get into Lee Daniels, just a little bit about Lee Daniels. So, okay, as we know, Lee Daniels and Monique worked together on the movie Precious. That was his movie. Monique basically called him out by saying, oh, he blackballed her, got her blackballed, he didn't help her. Now, Star and Empire have been canceled. So, of course, as I said before, Empire is going to be canceled after its 6th season, and Star has been canceled after 3. Okay, so personally, my views on Empire, I did not like it for the first season. Let's just be honest, a lot of us liked it. Well, a lot of black folks I saw liked it. I just didn't like that it was on Fox. I've even said this in front of a lot of black folks, and they agree with me, okay? We like Empire, we just don't like that it's on Fox, okay? However, what I did not like about Empire, especially for the fact that it was on Fox, was because it showcased a lot of stereotypes within the first few episodes of the first season. Okay, you got the ghetto names, Cookie, Lucius, you know, Hakeem and whatnot. You have the stereotypical names, okay? You have the caricatures of black folks in each character, okay? The loud, sassy, ghetto, angry black woman was Cookie. You know, the sellout, brute Lucius. You had, you know, Andre, who was of course married to a white woman, but he went to college, he got his education, he was smart. Yes, he had bipolar disorder, which I felt was a great touch because we need to really talk about mental health in our community. I feel like we only bring that up when things get problematic for us, when we're facing white folks or when it comes to in a court case. But we never want to talk about how we're dealing with mental health issues when it comes to intraracial relationships or relationships within our community. We don't want to do that. But let's talk about like when it comes to a court case, right? But whatever. So we had Hakeem, you know, he was the young, spoiled rapper living the stereotypical rapper's image, okay? And then you had Jamal, he could sing, but he was gay. And, you know, here comes the Hotep's, you know, homophobic assholes talking about gay agenda. As if the problems for gay black people don't exist. Or LGBTQ identifying black people don't exist. Even though Jamal was I think Jamal was a epitome in the first few seasons. He was kind of like, not the epitome, I should say, but he was kind of like more of a representation of how the black LGBTQ really care about this community, yet they are being shunned out more than anyone. The black LGBTQ and the black woman. Let's just talk about that for a minute. I've seen this more from people who identify as LGBTQ black folks and black women. I feel like they're a lot more ride or die for the community to a fault, and they get little to no reciprocity. We get little to no reciprocity. I really feel like, and this is another reason, this is one of the main reasons I actually backed out of this whole excessive social justice warrioring, because the lack of reciprocity for black women and dark-skinned black women and the black LGBTQ, even though we're more ride or die in this whole community than anyone. I personally think that the first few seasons of Empire, or the first season of Empire, was just nothing but a bunch of stereotypes, nothing but a bunch of caricatures, and that's one of the reasons Fox loved it. I thought as it got more towards, you know, talking about social justice issues and more just being a show about a show with a family, it's kind of like, I looked at Empire kind of like the music industry version of Game of Thrones. Okay, I didn't see Game of Thrones. I don't watch Game of Thrones. I couldn't get into it from the first episode. I just saw the hype around it, tried to get into it, couldn't get into it. But I know the plot is about just a bunch of people fighting to get the throne, you know, and that's kind of what Empire was for me. Okay, so I did peep Empire. I did not like the first season based off of the many caricatures and black stereotypes in that one full season or few seasons, and then close as it got to where it is now, yeah, it's starting to look more like a show being a show. And I feel like, because I hear a lot of black folks saying, oh, Empire's not what it used to be, I liked it better in its first season, you know, it's boring now, it's this and that. And I'm saying, is it boring because it's not the, you know, caricature stereotype of black folks that it once was before, and it got more serious and more, you know, normalized? You know what I'm saying? Is that the main reason? Because this is what I mean about us supporting stuff. It seems like when it's the loudmouth caricature, because you hate when we're being portrayed that way in media, especially white media. You hate when we're being portrayed that way, but will you support it if it wasn't that way? You know what I'm saying? If it was about a classy, well-to-do, or a classy, affluent black family, or just, you know, a sitcom family, you know what I'm saying? Would you support that? And that's just a question I'm asking. I'm not saying you will or won't, but I'm saying ask yourself that question and answer it. Will you? Because it's like we say one thing, but our actions say otherwise. And this is why you have people like me backing out of this woke stuff, because you say one thing and you do something completely different. But I personally think that Empire has definitely run its course. I think 6 seasons, I is enough, but I actually want them to end it on a proper note. I want them to end it with something final. I don't want them to end it on a cliffhanger. If you're gonna go out, at least go out with a proper closing. Don't Sopranos us. Please do not Sopranos us. I do not like it. That's kind of how like All My Children ended, and I still had high hopes that it will come back. And even when it came back online, it didn't do well for me. It wasn't the same. I personally feel like, you know, of course it's been on for 40 years, but when I started getting back into it, I was upset about how it ended because it left on such a big cliffhanger. And when it came back, it really didn't come back in a good way. Personally, I hope they bring All My Children back. Just like people said, I hope they bring Passions back. I checked out one episode. It's pretty good. But I hope they bring certain good shows back. Anyway, I have to say that, yeah, I personally think Empire kind of ran its course. Star, I really think ended way too prematurely, and I do think that certain people like are gonna lose their jobs, obviously, because I think Ryan Destiny doesn't deserve that. I feel who else? Matthew Noska and Luke James do not deserve that. I really feel like they don't. For now, I don't know the extent of, you know, what they're doing, but you know what I'm saying. I personally feel like it's upsetting for, and you know, the girl Jude who plays Star, she actually has a baby. That baby in Star, I think, was her baby. She was really pregnant the whole time. I really thought that they were just really good at creating that pregnancy mold on her so she showed her belly and stuff. I really thought they were just really good at that. No, she was really pregnant. Okay. And Queen Latifah. I'm mad that Queen Latifah and Brandy are going to be out of a job because I love seeing them on TV. I love seeing people we grew up with, you know, back in the game and being on screen or doing something. You know what I'm saying? I like seeing her there. And Kimberly Elise, she was on for a minute. I was like, I'm glad to see you acting. I miss her on Hit the Floor. Okay. But anyway, that's what I'm saying. Do I think this is somewhat karma that they are losing their shows? Somewhat, yes. However, like Monique said, we shouldn't be kicking them while they're down, at least too much, okay? Because they kind of deserve this backlash. But we shouldn't really be kicking them down for too much for too long, because what's that going to solve, really? And who's to say that it's going to make them change their ways, apologize, and come back to us? For, you know, kicking them while they're down might make them even want to prove what they're doing even more. Who knows? So I think they just need to take this as an L a little bit. And let's be honest. Someone mentioned this. Chronicle Speaks mentioned this. I think I forgot to mention this. Steve Harvey owns a majority share in his talk show, but because he doesn't own so much in Little Big Shots, that's why they're only replacing him as a host. And funny enough, I meant to say this earlier, but funny enough, he got replaced by 2 white women. Personally, I don't necessarily think the Kelly Clarkson show is a good show, and I know it hasn't come out yet, but I personally don't see what good is a Kelly Clarkson show. How long is that gonna last? And they can prove me wrong, sure, you know what I'm saying, but I cannot think of what type of niche can Kelly Clarkson put out. Melissa McCarthy, I think, could make a pretty good host, and that's just me seeing it because, you know, she was good in her Saturday Night Live sketches, as you know, and I think she can, you know, get a chuckle, not even a chuckle, she can get a good laugh out of people, you know, but I don't know about Kelly Clarkson. But anyway, this is all I have to say about the situation for now anyways, but tell me what you guys think, you know. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next video.